Good evening, everybody, or for me, it's good morning. My name is Scott Matheson, and welcome to this How to Move to Australia webinar. This is our first webinar for 2024. So fantastic to have you on wherever you are in the world. For most of you, it looks like good evening because we have people from Europe, South Africa, USA, Singapore, actually all over the world, to learn about how you can move to the lucky country. It's morning where I am, and there's a little bit of sun coming into my office, so that all goes well. Just had my coffee and looking forward to spending 40 minutes with you to tell you about how the most simple plan to move to Australia, because migration is fraught with difficulty and we're in the game of making this simple. We've been doing it for over 20 years and we're here to basically help you. So I've got 4 expert panelists on today that I'd like to introduce you to. First of all, I'll go up to the UK and introduce you to Paul Goddard. Paul, if you could say a few words and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, my name's Paul Goddard, and I've been helping people move down under since about 15 years now. Lived down there myself, currently based in the UK, obviously, as Scott just said. And that's really good for our UK-based clients and European-based clients because I get a good overview of what it's like, and I've been there and done it, and look forward to helping as many people as we can move forward.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. And our registered migration agent, Sarah Hewitt, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Oh, hi, everyone. As Scott said, my name's Sarah. I've been in the industry for just over 10 years. I'm a registered migration agent for Australia and also a licensed advisor for New Zealand. I've lived in various countries, so I really do understand the stresses and everything that's involved with moving.
Absolutely, yeah. There are some stresses for sure. Now, our final panelist is Paul Arthur. He's our relocation specialist. Migration just doesn't stop when you get the visa. There's a huge iceberg underneath that. Paul, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Paul Arthur. I'm based in the UK as well. I've been helping people move down under now for probably nearly 25 years. I understand it's a big move. I understand that it needs careful planning to help your relocation and migration run smoothly. It helps you settle as well. So my role is to give you advice, guidance, and assistance throughout the process.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. So just coming up on the slides here, this is the team. Lovely picture of Sydney there, looking glorious. So what we'll cover today, first of all, why a migration agent is so important, and it really is important. The Australian job market, what's happening now in Australia, what does that mean for you? 4 key steps to making the move. So making a move to Australia is a process, and we have finessed that over the years, over many, many years and thousands of people, and we'd like to share our 4 key steps to making that move and how we can support your relocation. And finally, who we can, and I'm afraid there will be some people that miss out and who we can't help. But that's why we have this webinar, so that you know what your next step is, whether that is where you're able to move or where you're not able to move, where you can move to. So look, I'd just like to ask Sarah, first of all, to talk, because you're a migration agent, you're a registered migration agent, and there is a very, very good reason why you should be using a registered agent. So can you just explain what your role is in this whole process, please?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So most importantly, I would say my role is to ensure that you would fit all of the main criteria. So it's always important I would say, to go to a registered migration agent in order to get correct advice. Most of you have probably gone round and round in circles, having a look online, and you can't find the correct answers. So if you're using an agent, we'll be able to assess you thoroughly and check that there is a route for you and your family.
Absolutely. And of course, not only do you have a thorough understanding of the extremely complex rules of Australian immigration, but obviously there's expert advice. And can we talk about the code of conduct and the compliance requirements?
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So we are regulated by MARA. So every year they will audit our company, ensure that we are handling people's money in the correct way, ensuring that we are providing correct advice. And that's what you will get with a registered agent. As you've probably seen, there are a lot of people out there that aren't registered. They are providing advice. So at least if you use someone who is MARA registered, you know that, we are adhering to the rules.
And I think in our experience, probably the key factor around that is that in the migration process, as somebody who's wanting to migrate, you are handing over money. And when you are handing over money, you're expecting a service. Probably the key part of this process, if you're using a migration agent, a registered agent, is that money will be put into a trust account, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So when we sign a contract with a client, that money would go into what we call a trust account. And then as we provide services and we actually earn that money, we would then invoice the client for that. So you know that anything that's, if perhaps you stop the process midway through or anything happens, then you know that whatever's left, does have to go back to the client. So, yeah.
Yeah, so from our perspective, if there's anything that you learn from this webinar, it's ensure that you use a registered migration agent, because your funds will be put into a trust account and they will be safe based on the work that is done. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, Sarah, you're going to be doing most of the talking in the first half of this webinar, which is fine. But I think for people who are wanting to move, there's two key routes, isn't there? There's a route to Australia where you don't need a job offer if you're skilled and you're qualified, and there's a route to Australia if you've got a job offer, and arguably that's a much bigger cohort of people that will go down that route. So the first one, the 189, 190, can you just give a couple of minutes to describe what that is and who are the people that are most likely able to go down that route where they don't need a job offer up front?
Okay, so there are certain industries which would fall on what we call the medium to long-term list. There are currently around 200 different occupations that fall on that list, but I would probably say more like anyone in the medical field, so nurses, doctors, OTs, physios, and then apart from that, teaching, so early childhood, primary, secondary school teachers. A lot of people in those occupations are currently being selected for what we call general skilled migration, which would be for a permanent residency visa. So how that works is, as we touched on before, firstly, you would need to ensure that you were assessed, that you properly fit the criteria. You would have to do what we call a skills assessment, and then you would go into a pool of applicants. So the government would select applicants each month, and the result being that you would receive a permanent residency visa.
Which is amazing.
So that would be the one.
Yeah. And so just to qualify that, if I was a qualified teacher with a certain amount of experience and a qualification, then I could have potentially apply for either the 189 or the 190. Can you just tell us the difference between the 189 and 190? Because they are numbers that are bandied about a lot, and I'm sure the listeners may have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the 189, that's an independent skilled visa. So it would mean that you would be able to get permanent residency with no job offer, meaning you can live anywhere in Australia. With the 190, that would be a state sponsored. So you would be nominated by a particular state and you would have to live in that state for a certain amount of time. But again, you would receive permanent residency.
Yeah, so this is a wonderful option for a select few of people, and I guess the thing to do here is that we've got a free assessment on our website that'll come up. We'll be able to send that to all the listeners or to all the viewers. It's not radio, it's video, so we'll be able to send that to you, and you'll be able to complete that free link, and then we'll be able to potentially guide you on what would be the best route for you. So the second one, which is the more like the job-led route, which Australia is actually encouraging. So from a job perspective or from a country's perspective, Australia is really, really interested in attracting skills. And they're looking at ways where they can bring people into the country that are going to have an immediate impact on the economy, providing skills, providing growth, and providing income as well, taxable income. And so there are specific skills that have a visa pathway. And can you just describe how that works as well, please, Sarah?
Yeah, no problem. So I would say this pathway is, apart from the fact you do need to find a job offer, but I would say that it is easier in the sense that as long as you've got 2 years of experience in your industry and you obtain a job offer from what we call a sponsored employer, you would be able to go over on a work visa, and that would either be 2 years or 4 years. And then at the moment, what they've actually, Australia have designed is the fact that everybody would be able to get residency after being on that visa for 2 years going forward. So the employer would have to sponsor you for residency, but it's a great pathway to be able to stay permanently.
Fantastic. So there is definitely a residency pathway, even though you're coming in on a temporary visa.
Yeah, yeah. So that's quite good for the employer, so they can ensure that, you know, if they've had you there for 2 years, then they know, oh, okay, yeah, I want to sponsor this person for residency, and they know how you work. And yeah, it's good for both parties, I'd say.
Okay, cool. All right. I do apologize. The sun's moving. I didn't really factor in that the sun's moving. It's in my eyes. I'm okay. So I'm just going to keep on going, but I can see on my screen I've got a big line across my face. Paul, I think the key next part is really getting ready for the move. And, you know, let's get into these 4 steps because it's so critical, isn't it? If I can just bring up the 4 key steps to making the move. And the get ready, preparing for the move, all the hard yards is done at the outset, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Preparing for the move actually means a lot of things. What it doesn't mean is just looking at the internet, looking at pictures of Australia, maybe being lucky enough to visit Australia if you've done that before, or watching Neighbours or Home and Away. That's all part of being prepared, is looking at what Australia is, but being prepared for the move means actually checking things out, checking that you meet immigration criteria, checking that you can get the kind of documents and paperwork and evidence that you need to get a visa, understanding how things work, and most importantly, understanding how they apply to you. I mean, we're talking about a couple of options here for visas, the 189s, the job led or the non-job led. There's lots of different visa options for Australia, and it's really easy to go down the wrong route or read stuff that's totally irrelevant to you. So don't just rely on the internet. Get accurate advice from people who know what they're doing. That's how you get prepared, and it's essential.
And I think, of course, I'll come back to this free appraisal, and then the what we call the YVP, the Your Visa Path. I mean, that's a critical part of that preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a two-stage process. Everybody who comes across our website or is on this webinar, we're more than happy. We want you to do a free appraisal. That's where we take some basic information from you. You just fill out a form, give us some basic details, and the form filters in and out people who kind of meet the criteria. So that's a very easy free step. There's no risk. It doesn't take you very long at all. And if that free appraisal goes well and looks good, then we'll invite you to do a full paid consultation assessment where you'll get a report from visa agents like Sarah, and you'll also get a full 45-minute to 1 hour consultation with them as well to actually show you the way forward, explain how to make the move, give you all the answers to all your questions, and give you a clear way forward. And this is all before you actually sign a contract or commit to anything. And that's the beauty of this. Emigrating is life-changing. It costs a lot of money. You're giving up everything. You're moving to another country. Before you even commit to that, get the answers and information you need so that you know that you're doing it right. You wouldn't set up a business without having a business plan. So why would you uproot your whole life and move to another country without having a clear way forward?
Yeah. And the cost of that, Paul, is nominal, really, in the big picture.
Oh, really nominal, really nominal. We're currently charging 180 Aussie dollars for the full assessment report and consultation. So that's, if somebody was in the UK, that's about £85 or something like that. And that's for a family, it's not per person either. So, a tiny amount of money compared to what you are going to be spending and making the move. So spend a little before you risk a lot.
That's a good way of saying it. And so from your perspective, Sarah, people have this pathway, this plan, and then what is the sort of the next step after that? They'll meet with you, and then can we get some insights into the next steps?
Yeah. Yep. So after I've written the assessment, we'll have that consultation, and then we will design a way forward for the client. So whether it be that they're going to look for a job offer, or whether it be that they're going to submit for a 189 or 190, we would formulate that plan. We would start with the appropriate documents. So we'd provide the client with the documents they require, and then start preparing the applicable application. If, for instance, they're looking at a work visa, we can help with things like looking at your CV, guiding you in terms of where to look for the job. And then we obviously assist with relocation as well.
Fantastic. So then I think we should start talking about this get a job offer. It's a major point. So the Australian job market is very hot at the moment. I think that's a good way to describe it. Even though post-COVID, Australia welcomed a lot of new migrants in specific areas, there are a lot of skills shortages. There are 25,000 ads on seek.com.au, which is the main website in Australia for fitters and turners. There's 10,000 ads for electricians. In Queensland, they're expecting very large growth as people from Sydney and Melbourne move north. So more infrastructure is being built, more hospitals, more rail, more roads. There's a lot happening in Australia. And the good thing is that the federal government has a migration target. They understand that every year there needs to be a certain amount of people that are coming into the country to offset an aging population and to pay for an aging population, but also to keep Australia productive. So the good thing about that is that there's a system in place to ensure that that people like yourselves have an opportunity if you have the skill set. But I think, Paul, people have to be very, very careful about how they approach the job offer and not going too soon, which is probably the biggest problem we see, or the mistake. And so it is a mistake if you go too soon. So you just want to talk through that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's one of the biggest mistakes, especially if you're going for that 482 visa where you need a job offer, which seems to be the direction Australian government's going in more and more. You know, people don't know when to start applying for jobs. So you'll have an idea of when you want to make the move and when you're able to get on a plane and be there. Of course, that doesn't necessarily correspond with when a job offer is available and how far out should you start applying for a job. You know, and like you said, Scott, the biggest problem is applying for jobs when you're not ready. Applying for jobs when you can't prove to employers that everything's going to be okay and that everything's ready. You know, employers aren't there to really assist with your journey to Australia, other than, you know, actually offering you the job. Yes, they sponsor people into jobs, but you've got to do the background and you've got to get ready for the move. And we see people make lots and lots of mistakes. The way that you apply, the way you approach employers, you know, not every job is actually on the internet either. So you need guidance around these things, and that's certainly what we can do as people move forward with this journey if they need a job offer to get over to Australia.
Absolutely. And of course, then not only that, you have to ensure that the employer has SBS, and not all employers do, and a lot of employers have no idea what that is. Sarah, can you just explain SBS, because it's 3 letters that if you are committed to moving to Australia, you'll hear a lot of.
Yeah, so the employer needs to be a sponsored employer, and you know, they need to be sponsored. Sorry, my internet's going funny. 1 second.
Yeah. So standard.
Am I right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sarah.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay, go on. Yeah, so it would be sorry, Scott.
We were talking about the standard business sponsorship.
Yeah, okay. So as I said, the employer would need to be sponsored with the government in order to employ foreigners. They would also need to nominate the person that they want to employ as well. And a lot of employers aren't aware of the actual process, so we can actually do that for them.
Yeah, so that's part of the assistance that we'll be able to get to in the end is, you know, if you're applying for a role, once you are visa ready, but the employer doesn't have the SBS, then we can engage with the employer and take them through that process. Although that does take some time. So, you know, we recommend that you talk to SBS employers in the first place. So once you have a job offer, and we do have a lot of support around that, we're not saying that we do get you the job, you get yourself the job. We provide you with different platforms to find a job, but if you were looking for a job in your own country, you know, that would be up to you. Even if you were using a recruitment consultant, you know, they would provide a service. But at the end of the day, it would be your CV, your interview, your skills, your attitude that got you the job. And it's the same in Australia. So, you know, whatever you're hearing on this right now, I just really want to make sure that you understand that it's your responsibility to find a job. That might sound harsh, but we can't do that for you. We're not you. Everybody's different, and everybody has their own reasons to get a job and wherever they're seeking. So we'll provide you with as many possible tools for that. That's part of our whole Australia employment support that we have. But you're going to be the one who's interviewing, and you're going to be the one that's convincing the employer that you're right for the job. If you are visa ready and ready to go, then you'll be way more likely to be selected. You increase your chances significantly. So look, it's 8:27 already where I am, so it's 27 minutes past the hour, and I know that we're discussing a lot, but once you get your visa, there's quite a lot to do after that. So I wanted to introduce to you Paul Arthur, because the final part is getting on a plane and the relocation support, and it's something that you can actually potentially start now, or once you've done your eligibility assessment and that you know that you can move. So Paul, can I just let you take the wheel now, please?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. It's all about planning and preparation. We understand that getting the visa and getting the job are key things, but once you've got those under control and you've got professional help to get that visa, then you need to start thinking about planning and preparing for the move. If you haven't done it before, it's a minefield. Who do you talk to? Who do you use? Who can you trust? What we've tried to do is use our experience and, in a way, our buying power as a company to put together a range of specialist companies who are experts in their particular field, who you can use with confidence to get you down to Australia. So we help you make the move, but equally, we help you settle when you get there. We offer a range of services which we can hopefully get organised and arranged with you and for you before you even leave your home country. The service we offer is only available to working in clients. So once you are a client, we'll give you a relocation form to complete. That sort of summarises all the different services we offer. You'll then have a call with me. We can discuss your requirements, look at your timetable, look at your migration plans, and I'll be able to explain in detail how each of the services work for you. We tailor them to work for you because everybody has different requirements. But just running through some of the things we'll work with is opening a bank account, in Australia before you get there. When you come to emigrate, some people will be selling property or cars, have money to transfer. We'll help you get the best possible exchange rate so you get more Aussie dollars for your pound or euro than you would probably do using a normal high street bank. We can give you support on pensions, shipping, pets, removals, flights, finding property, looking at schools, getting cars, sorting out insurance, and a whole heap of other things. So we solve that problem for you largely. We've got people in Australia can work with you to help you get settled when you first get there, with schools, Medicare, and so on. So there is an awful lot to think about. My advice is start early. So as soon as you become a client, we can start working together, particularly if you've got pets, dogs and cats, because you need to start working with a pet shipper at least 7 months before you want to move them. There's lots of jabs and timetables and gaps which you've got to go through before they can be tested to be flown. So starting early is the key. As you probably heard from everybody else, really, if you're serious about moving, my advice is to take advice. Make sure that you're eligible to do what you want to do, and that you use a professional company, not only to manage the immigration process, but to support you with the relocation.
So, Paul, thanks for that. And a lot of these companies we've known for decades, so they've been in
Yeah.
I mean, they have been in the game for a very, very long time. And I think one of the good things about that is that when we introduce you to, say, like a PSS shipping company or a TourFX, then the individuals there are also experienced. So you'll be able to gain knowledge from them as well in a trusted environment.
Absolutely. These guys and companies we work with, as Scott said, we've been working with them for many, many years. They are experts in helping people who are migrating. That's their area of expertise. So, they've got the skills, they've got the experience, they've got the knowledge to make the whole process as simple and as straightforward as possible for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, there is a huge amount of work to be done after you get your visa, and it does take time to prepare. Paul Goddard, it's not easy, this migration, and it is all about the planning, isn't it?
Oh, totally. I think that one of the key things with planning, and one of the key things with having an assessment and a consultation, is that's what allows the plan to be created. You can't just use Google to create your plan to move to Australia. And that's what most people do. And that's why most people who want to move to Australia don't move to Australia, because it only gets you so far. But if you can get a clear plan with all the answers to all your questions and a clear way forward that you can understand, you can then follow that path forward. Until you can see the way forward, you can't move forward. And so I'm guessing, everyone on this call, we're looking at questions coming through. If you're asking questions, you haven't got a clear way forward yet. So get the clear way forward, then you'll have a plan. And then if you stick to the plan, as you said earlier, Scott, your chances of doing this are just increased 100-fold, just by having a very clear plan that's easy to understand. It's not easy to do. It's just, but it needs to be, you need to visualize it before you can actually make it happen.
It takes away the stress as well, mate.
Yeah.
So Sarah, I'm going to just move on to the next and our final slide, which is who we can help, because unfortunately there are some restrictions in Australia, and probably the number one is age. So can you just discuss how the 45 years limit and how that works? Is that for PR? Does that affect people who are wanting a short-term visa?
Yep, no problem. So yes, the limit of 45 does affect both if people are doing, if they want to get residency through a short-term visa, it would affect them. Also, if they want to do the 189 or the 190. So there is no age limit for the work visa, the 482. However, if you want to go on to get residency through that, you need to be under 45. So that would be an issue. With the general skill migration, so that's the 189 or the 190, the age limit is 45. So it is really important to, as we've said this whole evening, to get assessed and ensure that you can meet those requirements before you turn that age. On top of that, you've got, if there's any medical issues or anything on people's police record, that can also cause great issues. So it's important to be, assessed and check that you would meet that criteria alongside being skilled in your profession. They'd be the main points.
And then, so assuming this is most people will want residency, because once you come to Australia on your short-term visa, you want to stay. That's our experience. And the English language, how does that all work?
Yep, so the English language would, again, depending on where the applicant's coming from, so different countries may have different requirements. For Australia, but the English language would pertain mostly to the general skilled migration, so that's 189 or 190. It can add points, so you can add 10 or 20 points. And then again, depending on what country you're from, you may also need it for a temporary route as well.
Got it. Okay, so just looking at that slide and getting a summary there, people under 45, excellent English language, ideally ready to move in the next 12 months, Sarah. No health or character issues. But Sarah, we would assess those anyway, because it depends, does it not?
Yes, it does. So there's no kind of blanket, requirements. It does depend on the individual when you're looking at certain aspects of it. Again, it depends as well on occupation. So there's various factors involved. Again, you need to be assessed.
Okay.
That would be
And then ideally in a highly skilled occupation.
Yeah, highly skilled. Yeah.
So look, I think we're coming to the final sort of the part, the what's the next step. So Paul, from your perspective, I know we've talked about this a lot, but can you just one more time emphasize the next step, please?
Yeah, I think what people need to understand, especially people who've done a bit of research, I'm sure that people watching this webinar tonight, we're not the first visa agency or immigration company that they've come across. You're doing your research, you're online. Don't think of our a visa assessment as just us telling you that you're eligible for a visa. It is far more than that. It's actually clarifying which visa you're eligible for, because there's multiple visa options. So working out which one is the best visa option for you that suits your time frame and your budget and what you're trying to do. But then it's actually going that next step, the real value of a full assessment and consultation, because that's where you talk to people like Sarah, and Sarah works out what your options are depending on what you want to do and gives you all the answers to the questions and the clear way forward. So this is huge value. It's so important to get this clarity before you commit to the move. But as I said before, it's very, very simple. First step, complete our free assessment form. If you're not sure and you don't want to take that step of paying 180 Aussie dollars to get a full assessment, then do the free assessment first. You're not going to get a conversation with us as part of a free assessment, but we will be able to see that you meet the basic criteria. And if you meet the basic criteria, we'll then invite you to have the full consultation with us. It's all about taking away your risks every step of the way. That's what we do. We minimize risks and we maximize opportunities every step of the journey.
Brilliant. Okay. I really appreciate that, Paul. It's 39 minutes past the hour. I said would be 40 minutes. I think that's bang on. So I want to say thank you very much for everybody joining us wherever you are in the world. If it's time for dinner, then lots to discuss. We certainly would welcome you coming down to Australia. Australia's open. There are rules, but you can get through the rules, get planning, and we hope to see you down here one day. So thank you very much from me and my expert panelists. Thank you, Paul, and Sarah. Much appreciated. And goodbye. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.